My sweetheart, Ethan, held me responsible for Molly's death. 10 years of his resentment weighed heavily on me. When illness finally took my life, he hadn't offered forgiveness. Then, inexplicably, I found myself reborn on the very day the tragedy occurred. A desperate thought took root. I would fulfill their unspoken wish and die in Molly's place. Fate, however, had other plans. My attempt to end my life failed. Instead, I staged my death, hoping to grant Ethan the peace he deserved, even if it meant leaving him behind to start anew. 2 years drifted by. One day, a chance encounter with a photograph shattered my carefully constructed new life. Ethan saw it, and the truth of my survival crashed down upon him. They said he lost his mind in that moment. A decade into our marriage, long after my supposed death, Ethan finally found someone to fill the void Molly left. She was just a young college student, her face bearing a 60% resemblance to Molly's. That was all it took to send Ethan spiraling. He showered her with affection and material possessions. Her family was poor, so he funded her education without a second thought. When the time came for her internship, he made her his assistant, and they became inseparable. I remembered a promise Ethan had made years ago, a promise that felt like a lifetime away. On my 35th birthday, we would walk by the sea, a place we hadn't visited together since Molly was lost to its depths. That day arrived, and I tried to appear presentable, applying lipstick to hide the pallor of my illness and wearing elegant clothes to conceal my frail body. I waited by the sea, the waves crashing against the shore, but there was no call from Ethan. As night fell, his secretary finally informed me of an urgent matter that prevented his arrival. A memory surfaced, and I searched for the college student's social media account. There, among her posts, was a photograph. In the corner, a hand was visible, unmistakably Ethan's. A sharp pain shot through my head, a familiar sign of the tumor pressing against my nerves. The irony wasn't lost on me. The slightest mention of discomfort from me, a simple complaint of cramps, would send Ethan rushing to my side, even prompting him to prepare porridge himself. How sweet, how tragically ironic. The pain intensified, a constant reminder of my impending release. A silent laugh escaped my lips as I gazed at the sea. Molly, I thought, I'm almost there. I'm almost done paying this debt. Ethan returned home in the early hours, his eyes tired. He glanced at me on the sofa and asked flatly, "Aren't you going to sleep?" Then, after a pause, "I need to tell you something." "I know what you want to say," I replied, my voice weary. He slowly loosened his tie, the gesture familiar. Even at 35, he retained the charm of a mature man, his physique well-maintained. It was no wonder a 20-year-old found him appealing. "I was indeed with the assistant tonight," he admitted. "She wasn't feeling well, and there was no one else around. I just wanted to check on her, see how she was doing." He offered a weak smile. "I'll take you to the sea another day." "It's not about that," I said, the words catching in my throat. He looked surprised. "Then what is it?" Ethan tried another guess. "Birthday gift? I asked my secretary to pass it on to you." "Not that either." My patience was wearing thin. "Lily," he sighed, his voice laced with irritation. "I'm really tired today. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't waste my time." Taking a deep breath, I pushed the diagnosis report towards him. "I'm in the late stages of brain cancer." I had rehearsed countless ways to break the news, but in the end, the stark reality on paper felt like the only way. Ethan stared at the report, his disbelief palpable as he scanned it repeatedly. The silence in the house was heavy, suffocating. "Is this for real?" he finally asked, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Would they fake something like this? But the moment of shock was fleeting. He quickly regained his composure, placing the report on the table. "It's late. Go to bed." "Is that all you want to say?" My carefully constructed composure crumbled. "I'm dying. This might be my last birthday alive." The words tumbled out, raw and desperate. Tears streamed down my face as I grabbed cushions and threw them at him along with anything else within reach. He stood there, unmoving, not even attempting to shield himself. When my outburst subsided, he wiped his face, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "Tell me," he said softly, his voice laced with venom. "Isn't this karma?" Then, the rest of his resentment poured out in a torrent of bitter words. He turned and walked into the bedroom, the door closing heavily behind him, shutting out the last vestiges of my hope. But I knew deep down that Ethan was right. Molly's death was partly my fault. Until I was 22, Ethan, Molly, and I were inseparable, a tight-knit trio. Yet I was always the outsider. They were both from wealthy families, had received elite educations from a young age, and shared a multitude of interests. If it hadn't been for Molly's unwavering friendship, I would have had no place in their world. Then, like a cliché from a poorly written novel, I fell for Ethan. But his heart belonged solely to Molly. My secret crush was insignificant, a quiet ache in my chest. On Molly's 22nd birthday, I suggested celebrating at sea. Coincidentally, she owned a small private yacht that had remained unused. Molly loved the idea, canceling her reservation at a high-end venue to host her party on the water instead. The party lasted for several days. Initially, everything was perfect, the sea calm and inviting. But on the third day, disaster struck. The yacht suffered a sudden malfunction, water gushing into the hull. The captain estimated we had only 20 minutes before it sank completely. There were 17 of us on board and only 2 lifeboats, each with a maximum capacity of 8 people. Someone had to stay behind and wait for rescue. To her credit, Molly suggested drawing lots to decide who would remain. Unfortunately, I drew the short straw. As everyone else boarded the lifeboats, Molly suddenly snatched the straw from my hand. "Lily," she said, her smile radiant even in the face of danger. "You go first." "No," I protested, my voice rising in panic. "I drew the straw." "I can swim," she stated firmly, her gaze unwavering. "You can't, so you go first." "I can hold out longer than you," I insisted, tears welling in my eyes. "No," she countered, her voice gentle but resolute. "If you're staying, I'm staying too. Maybe by the time you reach land, I'll have swum there myself." Without another word, she pushed me onto the lifeboat. She turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with a quiet strength. "Take care of her," she said. Those were Molly's last words to us. Just as our lifeboat pulled away from the sinking yacht, a violent storm descended upon us. The extreme weather conditions hampered the rescue team's efforts, and by the time they arrived, the yacht had completely disappeared beneath the waves. Molly couldn't be saved. Emergency responders eventually recovered her body from the wreckage. Ethan had planned to confess his love for Molly once they returned to shore. He had gifts and flowers ready, a testament to his affection. But his beloved remained forever lost to the sea. From that day forward, Ethan began to hate me. If I hadn't convinced Molly to go to sea, she wouldn't have died. If I hadn't swapped tickets with her that day, I would have been the one who perished. Later, Ethan stumbled upon my diary and discovered my long-held crush on him. He sneered, his words laced with contempt. "Like me? You think you're worthy." A week later, to my utter shock, Ethan suddenly proposed to me, presenting a dazzling diamond ring. It was a grand spectacle, photos of the proposal quickly going viral online. Everyone commented on the size of the diamond, proclaiming it the most enormous they had ever seen. They hailed our story as a heartwarming fairy tale, a modern-day Prince and Cinderella. But they didn't know the truth. In reality, the prince never looked at Cinderella with love. Ethan married me solely because of Molly's dying wish. He took excellent care of me, providing for my every need, but his heart remained with Molly. Ethan never cheated. Perhaps he believed maintaining a semblance of a loving marriage would somehow bring peace to Molly's soul. For 10 long years, he upheld this charade. Then, he met someone who resembled Molly, and a spark of life returned to his eyes. My illness worsened. Ethan never visited me in the hospital. He was always busy, consumed by work and spending time with his assistant. One evening, while lying in my hospital bed, I watched a charity gala broadcast on the television. Ethan was there, looking handsome in a suit, with Linda, his assistant, standing close behind him. Linda's makeup was meticulously applied, enhancing her resemblance to Molly. Then, my gaze fell upon the necklace adorning her neck. It was Molly's necklace. I remembered the day Molly gave it to me. I had simply remarked on its beauty. Without hesitation, she had taken it off and placed it around my neck. I later learned that her brother had purchased it for millions at an auction. "What's a few million?" Molly had said with a dismissive wave. "Lily is my best friend. She deserves it." After Molly's death, I had locked the necklace away in a jewelry box, unable to bear the sight of it. Now, how dare Ethan place it on someone else without my consent? I reached for my phone and called him. "What's up?" His voice was cold and distant. "Busy today. Talk later." "No one can replace her," I managed to force out, each word a painful effort despite my exhaustion. "No matter what you're busy with, you're offending her." After hanging up, I closed my eyes for the last time. The day I died, a fierce storm raged outside, the heavy rain mirroring the day of Molly's accident. "Lily, do you like ash?" I was reborn. 22-year-old Molly sat before me, her smile as radiant as I remembered. "What are friends for? You can't hide it from me." I stared at her, stunned. Then she continued. "Did I guess right? Don't worry, I'll create some alone time for you two tonight. Make the most of it." I rushed forward and embraced her tightly, inhaling the familiar scent of jasmine. She was alive, breathing. "Lily, what's wrong?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Did someone bully you? Tell me and I'll stand up for you." I just... Before I could finish my sentence, a piercing alarm blared through the yacht. "Yacht malfunction! Everyone gather on deck now!" The vessel was already listing, the rear beginning to sink rapidly, and just like before, the weather outside was worsening, the sky darkening ominously. As in my previous life, they decided to draw lots to determine who would stay behind for rescue. I took a deep breath and snatched the short straw before anyone else could even reach for them. No need for the charade this time. Everyone except Molly sighed in relief and hurried towards the lifeboats. That's when I noticed Ethan acting strangely. In my previous life, he had taken charge, organizing everyone to board the lifeboats in an orderly fashion. Now he stood there blankly, his eyes vacant, only stepping onto the lifeboat after being physically pushed by another passenger. It was as if he had lost his soul. "Never mind him," Molly exclaimed, waving a dismissive hand. I counted down in my head. 3, 2, 1. As expected, Molly lunged forward to grab my lot. "What are you doing?" I feigned surprise. "Lily, let's switch," she said, her voice determined. "You go first. I'll stay for rescue. I can swim, and I'm tougher than you." "What nonsense," I retorted, trying to sound firm. "You forget I have a swimming coach certificate. You go first. Maybe by the time you reach shore, I'll swim there too." "Thank you, Molly," I whispered, the words filled with genuine emotion. In my last life, I hadn't even had the chance to express my gratitude. This time, I made it right. "Why the thanks?" Molly looked puzzled, tilting her head. But the look on Ethan's face after I spoke those words was striking. His pupils contracted sharply, and it was as if he had suddenly returned to life, his gaze fixed intently on me. The next second, I pushed Molly towards the lifeboat. This time, it was my turn to die. A sense of peace washed over me as I sank with the ship's tail. Then, I heard Ethan shouting desperately over the churning sea, "Lily!" How strange. Had he ever called my name like that in my past life? I met his eyes, filled with despair and devastation. They weren't the eyes of the 22-year-old Ethan I remembered. They were the eyes of the 35-year-old Ethan, the one who had already lived through my death. He got reborn too. I calmly closed my eyes. "So what if you're reborn, Ethan?" I thought. "I owe you nothing now." My body continued its descent into the dark depths of the sea. Deeper and deeper I sank into the bottomless blackness. Then a light suddenly pierced through the darkness, illuminating my world. Time seemed to blur. 2 years had passed since my rebirth. I walked through the campus in England, scrolling through my messages. "Molly, ding dong, your darling is arriving in London tomorrow." "Me, ready any time to pick you up?" "Molly, I'll bring you spicy strips, girl." "What's making you so happy?" Molly asked, her voice full of amusement as she approached me. "Surviving a near-death experience," I replied with a smile. How could I not be happy? Just when the yacht was pulling me down, a small rescue boat had appeared out of nowhere, cutting through the fog and storm, rapidly closing in on me. The details of what happened next were hazy. When I finally awoke from a coma, I was in a hospital abroad. A familiar face was beside me, strikingly handsome, with features that seemed a bit cool. Awake? The doctor said you're out of danger, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. It took me a moment to place him. Nolan, Molly's older brother, the one who was strict and uptight but had spent millions to buy a necklace for her. Did you save me? I asked, my voice still weak. Nolan explained simply, the day of the accident, I noticed a sudden change in the weather at sea. I immediately sent out a lifeboat just in case. Turns out, it really did save you. I felt a wave of gratitude but also confusion. Had this happened in my past life? Nolan got up to leave. I haven't told anyone, he said, pausing briefly and looking back at me. Not even Molly, about saving you. According to Nolan, everyone believed I was dead. Molly had locked herself in her room, refusing to eat or drink, drowning in her grief. Ethan had paid a fortune for a team to recover my body, refusing to give up until he had found me. In the end, they only found my bracelet, a birthday gift from Ethan during my sophomore year of high school, one I had never taken off. Ethan had held the bracelet, kneeling on the rescue boat, and cried. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I decided to tell Molly that I was alive. Upon hearing the news, she had flown to the UK and hugged me, sobbing uncontrollably. We decided to keep my survival a secret, pretending that Lily had indeed died. Molly was good at keeping secrets. 2 years passed, and besides my family, only the siblings knew I was alive. I guess this near-death experience was truly a rebirth. I changed my name and cut off my long, waist-length hair. Ethan had once said he liked girls with long black hair, so I had never changed my hairstyle after that. For this new life, I wanted to live for myself. As someone interested in technology, the UK offered my dream school, Imperial College, ranked 10th globally. I stayed, working part-time and studying diligently. Nolan wanted to help me. You don't have to work so hard, he said. I'll provide you with housing. Just focus on applying for your master's. I shook my head, thanks, but I want to do it myself. You've helped me enough. He sighed lightly. Over time, Nolan and I grew closer. Once I asked him, why are you willing to help me for free? His answer was simple and genuine, without any hidden agenda. In the end, I successfully got into Imperial College for my master's, returning to campus life. After Molly graduated, she started working at her family's company and had a lot of free time. She would fly to London to see me every now and then. The young lady could easily afford a top-floor suite in a 5-star hotel, but she always insisted on squeezing into my tiny dorm room. We would chat, binge-watch shows, and gossip just like before. To my surprise, she and Ethan didn't end up together. In fact, they had drifted apart. When I asked why, Molly firmly stated, "But I have a principle. Anyone my best friend dislikes is my lifelong enemy. My best friend can't be wrong, and if she is, then wrong has to be right." Then Molly added, "But you know, maybe you're mistaken. Ethan doesn't seem to like me. It's you he loves." "No way," I scoffed. "But he's gone all strange because of you," Molly mumbled. "He's been saying things I can't understand, like, 'I was wrong. Please come back. I'll never seek out the assistant again,' and stuff like that. Once, I even caught him kneeling in front of your picture, talking to himself and crying his heart out." According to my wishes, my family and Molly held a funeral for me, I said, giving an awkward smile and quickly changing the topic. "How long are you staying this time?" "I'll leave in half a month," she replied. We snuggled under the covers, chatting about everything from reality shows to our favorite celebrities. In the end, I'm not sure who fell asleep first. The next morning, Molly's scream jolted me awake. "Lily, I'm so sorry," she cried, her face pale with panic. "What happened?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. Ethan! Ethan saw our photo," Molly explained frantically. She had sent some food pictures to our class group and accidentally included a picture with me in it. She had realized her mistake and quickly deleted it, thinking no one had seen it. But someone had, and they had shared it with Ethan. He had gone crazy, calling Molly countless times. But Molly slept soundly and hadn't heard a thing. When she finally woke up, she had hundreds of messages from Ethan. His last one said he was already on his way to the UK. "What are we going to do?" Molly asked, her eyes filled with tears. Face whatever comes our way, I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. Got it, Molly replied, a mischievous glint in her eyes. You mean round up some guys to beat him back, right? Chill, I laughed. I'm kidding. Ethan did show up. The photo had been taken near the school, and with the buildings in the background as a clue, he had easily figured out it was Imperial College. I tried to remain confident. The campus was huge. How could he possibly find me? You can't throw around a flag so carelessly, Molly muttered, shaking her head. That Thursday, I was carrying a stack of materials, heading to the lab. I rounded a corner and bumped into someone head-on. Sorry, a familiar voice said. No time to run away. I looked up and saw Ethan. It had been 2 years, and he looked different, more mature, his eyes carrying a weight of unspoken thoughts. At that moment, I was truly grateful for my disguise. I had a hat pulled low over my forehead and a scarf wrapped high around my face, concealing everything below my eyes. My papers scattered across the floor, and I kept my head down, picking them up without a word. Ethan stared blankly at my exposed eyes. Had he recognized something? I thought I had dodged a bullet. Day 2. There was a theory class. The WeChat group created by the Chinese students in the class was buzzing. There's a really handsome guy in our class today, someone posted. No idea who he is, probably just crashing the class. Our major was hardly exciting. Who would want to crash it? I couldn't help but turn around for a peek. Wait, was that Ethan? Our eyes met briefly, and I quickly turned away, desperately hoping he hadn't seen my face clearly, but throughout the entire class, I felt his intense gaze on my back. When class ended, I rushed out first, thinking I had successfully escaped. But nope, he was faster than me. At the bottom of the building, he called out, "Hey, aren't you going to take your student card?" Sure enough, it was missing. I had probably dropped it yesterday when we bumped into each other, and he had picked it up. His shoes tapped softly on the marble floor, but the sound seemed suspenseful in the quiet hallway. The photo on this is pretty, he said, his voice gentle. Lily, right? There was no point in hiding anymore. Ethan must have known it was me. That's why he had found the classroom so accurately. I turned and snatched the card from his hand. Actually, I'm not Lily. Then where's Lily? He looked at me silently, his eyes searching. The weather in England was as unpredictable as ever, and right then, a light rain began to fall. Ethan's eyes mirrored the weather, all foggy and uncertain. You've been reborn too, haven't you? He asked softly. Yeah, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan's eyes turned redder. Why? Is that reason enough? I countered, my own emotions bubbling to the surface. More than enough, he admitted, his voice filled with remorse. I was a jerk back then. I hate myself, too. But Lily, even if you hate me, don't avoid me, okay? As long as you're happy. Ethan stepped closer and reached out to place my hand over his heart. I realized how much I loved you, but it was too late. God punished me, making me go through your death twice. It tore me apart, but finally, today. Before he could finish his sentence, I yanked my hand away and slapped him hard across the face. He stood there, stunned for a long moment. I hadn't held back my strength, and a red mark slowly appeared on his cheek. Ethan, who had lived a privileged life, had likely never been struck before. He touched his face and then smiled, a strange, almost satisfied smile. Molly was right. He was completely bonkers. Feel better? If not, you can hit the other side too, he even offered, turning his other cheek towards me. Disgusted, I stepped back. Repulse! You think I'm repulsive? Could you please bear it a little and listen to what I have to say? He pleaded. I don't want to hear it. Just then, my savior appeared. I spotted a familiar Maybach approaching through the rain and sighed with relief. I gotta go. My boyfriend's here to pick me up. Boyfriend? Following my gaze, a man stepped out of the car, opening a black umbrella. I happily ducked under it, not sparing Ethan another glance. Ethan looked gloomy, his shoulders slumping. He knew who it was. It was Nolan. Nolan had business in the UK and often stayed in London these past few years. Before class ended, I had sensed things might get tricky. So I had texted Nolan in advance to come and rescue me. He had arrived just in time. "Thanks for the rescue," I said, smiling up at Nolan. "Anytime," he replied, his gaze warm. "Has Molly being with you interrupted your studies? She had plans to head to France today." Nolan drove me to the grocery store for a few things before dropping me back at the dorm. The hallway was empty. "Okay, I'm going in now," I said, waving at Nolan. But suddenly, he pulled me into a hug and kissed me passionately. The motion sensor light went out, plunging us into darkness. I responded cautiously, unsure of how long we kissed. Only when I was almost out of breath did Nolan let me go a little. "Let's wait a bit longer," he murmured, his voice sounding hurt. Am I not worth it? Our words were drowned out by another long kiss. Nolan and I had only been together for about 2 weeks. Looking back, it still felt surreal. That day, he had calmly asked if I'd consider dating him. I had stared at his striking face and somehow nodded. I had regretted it a bit after thinking it through. After all, Nolan was my best friend's older brother. Wasn't that kind of complicated? Nolan had asked right away. "Then just see how it goes. I'm pretty good, not worse than anyone else. You giving it a shot doesn't cost you anything." He had made a pretty good point. No need to stay single because of one jerk. Nolan was indeed wonderful, gentle, and caring, but being with him felt awkward at times. We were polite to each other, even though he was always kind to me. Only in moments like this, with the lights off, did we dare to hold each other close. Nolan kissed with a lingering intensity, making the grocery bag slip from my grasp and drop to the floor with a dull thud. "Is Lily back?" Molly's voice called out, full of joy as she ran to the door. With the door flung open, alarms went off in my head, and I quickly pushed Nolan away. Caught off guard, he stumbled against the wall with a soft grunt. I glanced at him apologetically. "Huh, bro, what are you doing here?" Molly asked, confused, her eyes darting between us. "Just bumped into each other. Your brother took me to the store." I quickly interjected, trying to divert the topic. "What about you? Weren't you headed to France today?" "There's a strike in France. Had to cancel my flight," Molly explained. "Well, you two chat. I have work to do, so I'll get going," Nolan said, giving me a knowing look before heading out the door. After shutting the door, Molly looked at me closely. "What's up with your lips? They're so red." "Ha! Serves you right for eating without me," I retorted playfully. "You're absolutely right, princess," Molly conceded with a laugh. "You know, I've been feeling like my brother's been acting kind of weird lately." "How so?" I asked, so startled that I spilled the water I was pouring. "Any evidence?" He barely ever posted on social media before, like maybe once every 6 months. Now he's posting all the time, and it's all meaningless stuff. Pictures of a random dog or some wildflowers talking about how beautiful the moon is. Total nonsense. "Definitely seems like he's got a crush on someone," I said, analyzing every detail with her. She didn't notice, though, that Nolan had sent me a message. "Nolan. Ouch! Me. Did you just bump into something?" "Sorry, that's my fault. I got too nervous." Nolan. Sad puppy emoji. Nolan was usually so restrained and straightforward, but sometimes he would surprise me with something cute, and the contrast was so endearing. Nolan. I want to make up. Me. Okay, next time I'll make it up to you. Lily. Molly stopped, looking at me curiously. Who are you texting? You're just glued to the screen and giggling. Oh, just saw a cute puppy, I lied, trying to change the topic. How was it? Did he see you? I left out the part about Nolan. Molly smirked. He's seriously out of control now. Next time, don't hit him yourself. I'm afraid he might actually enjoy it. Molly was right. Ethan was seriously out of control right now. Late that night, just as I was about to fall asleep, our dorm group chat blew up with messages. Someone had posted a picture. Seeing Ethan there, I nearly fainted. It was pouring outside, and he was kneeling in the rain, looking haggard and pitiful. Our dorm required a key to get in. He couldn't come inside, so he just kneeled there, waiting for me to come down. Honestly, I wouldn't have cared if Ethan had collapsed by the roadside. But the student community was so small. If I didn't put a stop to this, the news would spread from London to Scotland by tomorrow. I just wanted to focus on school in peace, not be the main character in some drama. Fuming, I went downstairs. Ethan, how far are you planning to take this? Where were you when I was dying last time? I'm sorry, he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. I'm so sorry, Lily. I know I messed up. Whether you believe it or not, in our previous life, I fell for you early on. But I was scared to face it, so I acted cold. Disgusting, I muttered. Stop talking. Ethan stubbornly blocked my way, continuing. Lily, before Molly died, she asked me to take care of you, and that's why I married you. But years into our marriage, I realized I had feelings for you. Ethan's voice was hoarse, like an old flickering light bulb. And I was terrified. I felt like I was betraying Molly. I pushed you away, brainwashed myself, numbed myself to feeling anything for you. And then I met Linda, who reminded me so much of her. To prove my loyalty to Molly, I treated Linda even better. I felt like I was hearing the world's biggest joke. Absolute comedy gold, I thought sarcastically. With all that love, why didn't you stay on the yacht with me? When I opened my eyes, I saw you pushing Molly away. I'd have never let you stay behind. Then, he asked, his voice barely audible. After a moment, he finally said, full of guilt, Sorry, I thought the brain cancer was just a lie you made up. Seeing that I wasn't going to budge, Ethan dropped to his knees. Give me another chance. I'll make it up to you, I swear. I shook my head, annoyed. Ethan, we can only be strangers. I won't love you, and I won't hate you either. Because hate is such a strong feeling, and you don't deserve that. Ethan's breathing hitched for a second. He still wanted to beg, but then we heard a noise from the stairs. I opened the fire door, and there was Molly. She had probably hidden there because she was worried about what Ethan might do to me, but now she looked pale and shaken. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, she whispered. When I told her it was okay, Molly forced a smile. Was everything you talked about true? It was me who died in the last life? Did I ask him to take care of you? And then you got brain cancer and died? But before that, he was with my stand-in? Molly was trembling all over. The next second, she rushed forward and slapped Ethan hard across the face. She grabbed his collar, her grip tight, her words like a cry of blood. Ethan! In my eyes, you're not even worth a finger of my best friend. He looked at me, totally hopeless, as if still hoping for a bit of pity. I finally understood why Lily wouldn't see you, Molly said, kicking him away. Ethan, you really don't deserve any better. She dragged me back up the stairs. That hit seemed to sap all of Molly's strength. Back in the room, she leaned on me, silent. I don't know how long we sat there before she cautiously asked, It must have hurt, right? Molly suddenly started crying. Lily, you must have suffered so much. Tears flowed down my face. Honestly, since the first time I died, I hadn't cried. No heartbreaks had ever felt worth crying over. And yet, for some reason, hearing Molly say that, I couldn't control my tears anymore. That's what being best friends is all about. She could always see right through me, my frustrations, my pain. No matter how much I tried to hide, everything was exposed in front of her. I didn't respond, and Molly didn't press further. She gently patted me like a belated comfort. It doesn't hurt anymore, Lily. It won't hurt again. The next day, Molly dragged me to get a checkup. The doctor said I was healthy. I told her not to worry. In my past life, the doctor had said my illness came from stress and unhappiness. But now I was happy, fulfilled every day, and wouldn't get sick again. On the way home, Molly made a wish to a turtle in the pond. What are you doing? I asked. Shh, she replied. I made a wish for you. For what? Healthy and long-lived. I was a bit touched, but also annoyed. What's going on? Molly had changed too. She didn't just shop and play around anymore. She had come back to work seriously, getting involved in the family business. She said she wanted to take down Ethan's company to avenge me. Molly was a lot like her brother, quick to learn, decisive in her ways. Ethan was so busy dealing with her that he had no time for me. I got some peaceful time because of it. Christmas came around. I made plans with Nolan. We talked about what was up with Molly. I said, "Aren't you going to stop your sister?" "It's good practice for her," Nolan replied calmly. I almost spat out my drink. To Nolan, Ethan was just practice. Honestly, if Molly didn't mess with him, I would have. "Why?" he asked, his eyes curious. "Just don't like him," I said simply. While I was lost in thought, Nolan leaned in and kissed me. "Stop thinking about him," he murmured against my lips. "I'm not," I replied. "I stopped liking him ages ago." He smiled. "Good, now feel my abs. If you don't, all the work will be for nothing." It was snowing heavily outside and the room was getting warm. This was my first night with Nolan. We were exhausted by midnight, about to fall asleep. I was just dozing off when I heard the fingerprint locker sound. "Surprise, Lily! I came to spend the holiday with you." Molly's cheerful voice filled the room. I got dressed and came out of the bedroom. "You should have given me a heads up," I exclaimed, trying to hide my nervousness. "Just wanted to surprise you. Here, Christmas gift," she said, handing me a beautifully wrapped present. "How did you get up here?" "Your boyfriend opened the door for me, so I followed him in," she replied innocently. We exchanged gifts. I had gotten her the latest smart glasses she wanted, standing in line all night to buy them on launch day. Molly tried them on, completely thrilled. After messing around for a while, she was ready to rest. "I'm exhausted, just finished work and caught the last flight to make it here for Christmas." Molly started heading to my bedroom. "Hold on," I said, glancing at the closet nervously and stopping her. "Sister, you've lost so much weight." "Work does that," she replied with a shrug. "Don't worry, though. When I take down Ethan's company, I'll share some shares with you." She tried to hang her coat in the closet. "Let me do it." I jumped up. "I'll hang it for you." "Oh, okay," she said, looking at me curiously. "What's up? You seem a bit edgy." "Because your brother's in my closet," I thought to myself. The CEO hiding in my little closet. She was about to open the closet door when there was a sudden knock. Who could it be this late? Nobody usually came here, and there was, no peephole. I just opened the door. Ethan stood there with gifts and roses. Molly rolled her eyes. "Persistent, aren't you? What do you want now?" Ethan's gaze was solely focused on me. "Merry Christmas, Lily. I brought you a gift." He held out a plush toy, watching my reaction. It was something I had once really wanted. A limited release every Christmas. Not particularly pricey, but hard to get. I knew Ethan knew the designer, but he had never given it to me. He had given one to Linda instead when she came around. "You used to really like it. Do you still?" Ethan asked carefully. "I stopped liking it a long time ago," I replied flatly. He seemed lost, a flicker of pain in his eyes. "Even if not, just hold on to it. You might like it again someday." "Never happening," I said, pushing him towards the door, roses still in his hand. "You're not welcome here." "Lily, I know you lied about the boyfriend. You did it to get back at me. I get it." It was almost funny. Where did he get this confidence from? Nolan couldn't help but step out of the bedroom, annoyed. "Who are you calling fake, Ethan? Keep your distance and stop harassing my girlfriend." Molly's jaw dropped. So did mine. 10 minutes later, both men had left. It was just Molly and me in the room now. We stared at each other, and Molly seemed a bit miffed, not wanting to talk to me. Feeling guilty, I offered, "If you mind me being with your brother, I'll break up with him right now. Friendship means more than a romance." Nolan would understand. "That's not it," Molly said, hugging her arms to her chest. "I'm mad because we're close and you didn't tell me. Also, I'm his only sister. My brother ran off with my best friend? Unbelievable." "I told him not to tell you," I explained. "But we promised to share if there's someone special. It's my fault. I thought it might not last with your brother." "Why? Is he bad to you?" "If he is, I'll hit him right now." Molly's protective instincts kicked in. "No," I laughed. "He's great. That's the thing. He's too good." Nolan had once told me he had never been in a relationship before. I was his first love. He had said he was serious, that he was in it for marriage. Marriage, such a heavy word. I told Molly, feeling down. "I married Ethan once, and you know how that ended." "Lily, are you scared?" Molly saw right through me. Yeah, I admitted. I don't think I'm ready. I don't know how to face your brother. What if we break up one day? It would be awkward for you. So, I think I should sort this out first before telling you. Molly quickly relaxed. I've always thought my brother's been acting weird these past years. How so? I asked, curious. He's invested in a project abroad, focusing on brain tumors. What? A bold thought popped into my head. Molly and I exchanged a knowing look. No way, we said in unison. Did he also reincarnate? It was my first time at his place in the UK. The password was my birthday. Nolan didn't seem to be home. The study door was open, and the walls covered with brain cancer research caught my eye. How to prevent it, how to treat it. In the center was my picture, one Molly had taken at the college sports event. I was smiling, posing after the 100-meter run. Below the picture was a paper filled with details about me. She loves the sea, but after Molly's death, she fears it. She loves a certain brand's bunny plush, though limited editions come out every Christmas. She never got one. At 34, she found out she had cancer. To cheer her up, I often took her for checkups. Every word was filled with deep love. In my dark times, someone had still cherished those moments. Nolan appeared at the door without me realizing. Knew you'd find out, he said softly. I turned to him. So you're living this life again too? Yeah, he replied. Sent the lifeboat immediately, just in time. When Nolan knew I was rescued, he suspected I was like him. Nolan, I said, my voice filled with emotion. I never realized you had such feelings for me. He smiled, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Back then, you only had eyes for Ethan. I was just Molly's brother to you, not even a friend. If I confessed, you'd avoid not just me, but Molly too. It's true, I admitted. In my past life, I barely interacted with Nolan. After rejecting someone, I usually blocked and avoided them. When did you start having feelings for me? I asked. So in high school, when I also went to Molly's house with friends, he replied. He had already noticed me. I remember him always politely asking, want some ice cream or fruit? Turns out he was focused on me even back then. I had so many thoughts swirling in my head, then I remembered another thing. You never married in the last life. Yeah, it's because of you, Nolan admitted openly. After I died, he lived his life alone. When he passed, he was still holding an old hair tie I left there the first time I visited Molly's. It was the only thing he had of mine. Nolan paused, then continued. If I had known you weren't happy after getting married, I would have... You'd what? I looked into his clear eyes, stunned for a moment. Did you ever blame me? You didn't break the yacht, you didn't cause the storm. Molly chose to go out to sea. Why would I blame you? Molly doesn't blame you, so don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself. Finally, someone had said it. My eyes teared up and I almost started crying again. Molly had once told me their family had recently become wealthy. They regretted not having an education, so they focused on her and her brother's schooling. Molly hadn't lied to me. The two siblings were raised really well. Lily, Nolan said softly, kissing my forehead. I've waited so long for you. Long enough to live a lifetime. I suddenly remembered his initial confession. Want to give dating a shot? So restrained, so understated. But the love unseen had grown over the years into a rushing current. One day it had come to me, washing over my shattered life, piece by piece putting me back together. Lily, Nolan whispered, thank you. Thank me for what? I choked out, a lump forming in my throat. Thank you for finally noticing me, Nolan said, his eyes filled with contentment. Time flew by. 2 years later, I graduated from grad school with honors. At the graduation ceremony, I was the representative speaker for outstanding graduates of our school. The siblings attended my graduation. Molly had changed a lot. She had become a capable, elite businesswoman, carrying herself with the confidence of a CEO. The plan to acquire Ethan's company would be completed this year. A few companies in the UK gave me offers to stay, but I chose to return home. It was my wish to use what I had learned to build my country. After starting work, I saw Ethan a few times. It was usually for work or class reunions. Only once did I see him alone. The last time we met, he asked, "Lily, have I changed?" He seemed disappointed for a moment, then said, "I lost weight, a lot of weight." "Oh, right," I replied, not really paying attention. "I'm getting married." He froze. "Married?" "Nolan proposed to me. I'm really happy. The wedding's planned for later this year. They say when you're happy, you let go of a lot. That's how I felt now." Ethan didn't seem so annoying anymore. "Are you coming? I can send you an invite." He forced a smile. "Sure." Back then, I didn't know. He couldn't make it. He was sick, with less than 6 months to live. My wedding with Nolan was a big deal. Molly was my bridesmaid. She was happier than anyone. "I won't ever have to worry about getting along," she declared. "I definitely side with my sister." "Brother? Who's that?" "Don't know him." Someone asked her, "Is your friendship really that strong?" "We've been through life and death together twice," she replied with a confident smile. "What do you think?" Nolan slipped the diamond ring on my finger. "I do," I told Nolan, my voice filled with love. Molly was in the audience, almost in tears. "Now, all I want to say is, Nolan, you lucky dog." Ethan sent a gift through someone. The go-between said he was traveling far away, might never come back. "Oh," I said, "wish him a good trip." I pretended I didn't see his obituary. Life is like a fleeting journey. Ethan has moved on to his next journey. I'm about to start a brand new life too. But you see, I already have someone I love deeply and the best friend in the world. From now on, I will no longer fear the storms.